A company's value proposition and core principles are communicated through a set of techniques known as brand messaging. Companies can specify a certain approach to communicate their ideas to the general audience based on the tone of voice, style, and main message. Any company that wants to stay in business must have a strong brand. Every firm needs to understand the message it will convey to its audience because this will affect how people will view the business. Brand messaging is the process of creating and implementing a communication pattern that can generate a uniform method of communication about the brand's values to the general public. Even if the messaging used in each broadcast is unique, businesses need to express a single notion, whether in web advertising or TV ads. Customers want deeper connections with brands, and this relies on communicating. Using brand messaging, a business is able to communicate ideals, stimulate inspiration, and promote purchasing behavior. In this video, we'll go into greater detail on this idea. Whenever a corporation communicates with its customers, it establishes a tone of voice, a line of communication, and key topics. This is known as brand messaging. Establishing this norm is necessary so that the public can quickly recognize the company's identity whenever it positions itself. The goal of brand messaging is to appeal to your clients' hearts rather than their brains by capturing the key parts of your business. Let's look at everything you need to know about brand messaging to secure a consumer for life rather than just a one-time sale. The art of brand messaging is to choose the correct words to convey your business's character to potential buyers. In an ideal world, you could have coffee with every prospective client and tell them why they should work with you. In actuality, though, shoppers just have a short amount of time with your advertisement or website to decide whether you're worth their money. Your goods and services may speak for themselves, but getting them into the hands and minds of your customers requires powerful, straightforward messaging. Here are two major starting points. Your brand strategy will establish exactly what you want to say, whether it's your affordable pricing or your stylish brand identity. Here are brand messaging's two aspects, internal and external. Brand messaging is all about how people see you, including your staff and customers. Branding begins internally. The foundation for how your potential customers will experience your brand and your position in the market is laid out by your company's culture, values, and mission statements. How you and your team define your brand comes before any brand messaging. Your company's goals, vision, and values have an impact on both the general public and your employees. It's critical to establish them early on in the development of your organization, because company culture immediately results from the distribution of internal brand messages, such as Google's fun work atmosphere, for example. Spend time defining your fundamental goal, vision, and values before you start designing your brand messaging. These are essential to your business's overall messaging. External brand messaging. Most people associate brand messaging with messaging directed at a broader audience that aims to increase sales. Compared to messages that are directed inward, which often focus on ideas, these messages are directed outward and tend to be more informative and actionable. Your brand positioning, key differences, product attributes, and slogan all fall under the category of external messaging. In order to maintain consistency in your messaging, successful marketing is always developed from these key statements. How do you build a foundation for effective brand messaging? The process of defining brand messaging involves business, audience, and market research. The way businesses position themselves and choose their communication strategy is influenced by a variety of factors. A more accurate brand messaging plan is ensured by attending to each of these details. 1. Define your audience. Who exactly is your firm communicating with? When establishing your brand messaging, the audience is the first thing you should consider. Therefore, creating a clear persona is the first step. Some businesses are already familiar with the typical consumer for their brand. If, however, this isn't the case, it's essential to investigate consumer preferences, examine their purchasing patterns, and understand their expectations. As a result, the persona model will reflect the reality of the business. Realizing that there's an audience for each component is key when trying to understand audiences. Sports equipment retailers and sofa cleaners are not in the same demographic. This distinction significantly affects the brand's tone of voice, the chosen terminology, and the overall communication style to be used. 2. Identify references. When creating your company's brand messaging, it's always a good idea to take inspiration from success stories. Instead of duplicating a technique for your brand, find credible references that make perfect sense for your industry. The ideal course of action is to watch and assess the brand messages of the businesses in your sector. You'll see in their communication strategies that many multinational corporations take significant steps to keep their messaging uniform. It's pretty simple to determine what tools and processes they use to communicate their worth in advertisements, social media interactions, etc. Ideally, you might need to carry out a larger investigation with numerous cases. Be aware of market trends. The market consistently introduces positive developments that might greatly benefit your brand. Moreover, trends are required to understand how brand message has changed. It's a smart idea to conduct this analysis using social media. It's essential to know how businesses have communicated their beliefs through these channels. Identify your value proposition. Your communication approach will be built on the value proposition. This concept, which should always be strong, describes what your business does, offers as a brand, and plans to bring to market. That will serve as the foundation for a clear brand messaging strategy that will produce the desired impact. Every business has a unique value proposition. For instance, a provider of digital solutions places priority on providing cutting-edge software. In this case, they will underline it each time they make a sale, interact with a customer, or advertise and use standard marketing techniques. For a brand statement to be strong and persuasive, a firm must be faithful to its value proposition. The value proposition serves as the foundation for determining what specifically the business will provide the public after determining your audience and the market. No matter whether the concept is one of innovation, sustainability, practicality, or cheap cost, the brand value will serve as your guide when deciding on the tone of voice, terminology, and overall communication strategy. Define the terminology that will be applied. The terminology used in a brand's messaging is an essential component. Some are strategic and aid brands in communicating their value proposition more simply, which promotes engagement. The business must have a clear understanding of its value proposition at this point in order to know exactly what it will offer the audience. When choosing terms, it's important to determine which words cause a strong association with the products the organization sells. Terms like sustainable will be effective when referring to veganism and create a strong connection with the company. Building a proper bank of terminology can be crucial in order to establish a strong standard that will direct all communication activities. Set the tone of voice for your company. It's a crucial component of branding that will strongly direct the message delivery. You already know exactly which roads you can take while communicating your audience if you have a clearly defined persona, have researched the market, and have looked up references. All of those must influence your tone of voice. This strategy must take the company's products and values into account, understanding that tone of voice is a tool that aids in developing a corporate personality when communicating. Being funny, elegant, serious, or innovative are all viable options, as long as they're in line with the company's identity and are given priority. Due to the growth of technology, businesses now have more channels than ever before to apply their brand messaging, and in particular to develop this tone of voice in a variety of ways. Create communication standards. Communication policies greatly assist businesses in establishing an important standard that retains compliance with important issues such as terms that should never be used, phrases that should always be used, the attitude to be used, how somebody addresses the public, the value that should be applied, and how one pronounces and spells the names of products. Let's look at a couple examples. The following brands provide excellent resources and suggestions for your business in developing qualified brand messaging. Dove. Dove has distinguished itself by taking a more perceptive, sympathetic, and personal approach to the audience. The voice is milder and softer and not upbeat. Their attitude is that their products are a source of confidence as well as attractiveness. The brand's campaigns are sensitive and work with a brand message that emphasizes the value of having confidence in oneself. We'll attach a video about the Dove case in the description of this video. Apple. Apple's brand message is clearly visible. Its products offer cutting-edge technology, minimalistic beauty, and increased value. The customers of the brand are like a fan club, and they're completely aware of how items affect their way of life. And that's precisely what Apple wants. Their campaigns use short, direct messages that aren't overly informal. The emphasis is on matching straightforward explanations of features and functionality, showing how all of it affects the user's day-to-day activities. I'll also attach a video about Apple brand messaging in the description of this video. So in conclusion, effective communication involves making sure that your brand delivers its value proposition and that people will quickly associate what is said with your business.